Sometimes you actually may need to start two different copies of the same interface, two or more copies of the same interface. For example, if you simply want to do better organization for your points. See, one of the things about point source, if we take a look at tag search here, one of the things about point source is we can search based on point source. So it may help to better organize these by creating multiple copies of the same interface with different point sources. So, if there's a front end and a back end, you could use different point sources to indicate the different parts of the system that you'd like to look through. So that's one reason, but typically it's because you would have a requirement, you have multiple data sources, and a single interface just doesn't efficiently go to more than one data source, or if you simply want to do load balancing. So for example, if you've got, let's say you've got 15,000 tags to scan at once a second, there's actually certain limitations that Windows has as to the number of, the amount of RAM it can occupy a single service. So we actually find sometimes people may want to start maybe 3 copies of an interface with 5,000 tags each instead of 1 copy with 15,000 tags. Just with the time slicing and the dividing up of resources, it's better to do that for load balancing. So a good example, if you've got a very high number of devices to monitor, for example, using the SNMP interface, you may end up starting 5 instances of that to monitor the different parts of the network. So what you end up doing is launching that executable file, but you do it using multiple Windows services. So it's multiple Windows services that have been configured with different service IDs and pointing to different batch files so that the parameters are different, but it's still the single executable. Now there are 2 different ways you can create those instances. You can do it with ICU, as we'll look at later on, but you can also do it manually. And if you look at the bottom of this page in the notes, you'll see instructions on how to configure 2 copies of the interface to have different service IDs so that it's the same executable being launched by 2 different services. You also have to make copies of the batch file, but you'll find that procedure at the bottom of this slide.